Good afternoon, sports fans. This show is called Ramon's Reviews, and it's for the passionate sports fans in the sports community and basically around the world. You're interested in the world of sports. You have to give a shout out to Sun Lady. She's a very important person to me, and my designer, the shirts that I wear, and also the sponsor of our show. Let me jump right into it. There's so many topics to talk about in the world of sports, and even for the casual sports fans, but definitely the passionate sports fans like myself. So let me jump right into it. First of all, you have Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather Jr. He's going to fight on September the 12th in MGM in Las Vegas. That's going to be his last fight of his career. So he's saying right now. His record's unblemished. I understand that he has not lost a fight in his illustrious career. However, the Pacquiao fight left a lot to be desired. It wasn't his fault that it wasn't much of a fight in terms of action in the ring. But the same token, a lot of people felt sort of cheated by the fact that they paid so much money for pay-per-view and very little action in the ring. So I don't know how his pay-per-view numbers are going to be for his last fight. Make no mistake about it, he's definitely a champion, but the same token, I still wouldn't consider him amongst the greats because of the lack of competition that's been out there that he's fought. I could go on and on about some of the cats that he's fought, but most of them were past their prime and certainly really weren't grade AA fighters at the time that he fought them. I'm gonna hopscotch around the different topics around in the world of sports. So let me jump on the. Let's start with college football. You had two of the top teams here in Los Angeles, USC Trojans and UCLA Bruins. Both of them are expected to do well, not only in the Pac-12, but in the national rankings around the country. Now, USC is trying to bounce back from the sanctions. They're still on sanctions to a certain degree, the scholarship limitation, but they're bouncing back from the scandal that they had with the Reggie Bush situation years ago, and when Pete Carroll was head coach. The expectations are lofty now. They're getting a lot more scholarships than they had in recent years, and they're starting to recruit the top, the five-star players that they've gotten in the past. But the jury's still out on the coach. Sark, he's a good coach, but I don't know if he's good enough for the USC faithful. They expect national championships every year or close to it. I don't think USC is there yet, and I don't know how much more patience they're going to have with Sark. They might have more patience with him one more year, but after that, he's going to really have to produce something more than just a Pac-12 championship. Otherwise, his days are numbered at USC. Now, taking it down the freeway, you're looking at the UCLA Bruins. UCLA Bruins had arguably the top quarterback in the country, freshman quarterback coming to Josh Rosen. He's expected to actually win the starting job, but Jerry Neuheisel, the coach, used to be UCLA's former coach. His son is vying for the starting spot as well. They have a lot of returning starters. Expectations are very high in Westwood. They're definitely expecting Jim Moore Jr. to actually produce, and not just produce a Pac-12 championship, but actually make it to the playoffs. You know, UCLA Westwood is vying for a spot in the national championship picture, and they know that to do it, they have to go through and win the Pac-12 championship, and arguably do more than that. And they're vying for that recognition around the country. They have returning starters in almost every position coming back. Some of the top players actually in the country. They had an excellent recruiting class. Needless to say, all the off-the-field skirmishes and off-the-field distractions, let's say, with Snoop Dogg's son and P. Diddy's son is bringing more attention to the program. That was really unwanted, actually, publicity. But the same token, it's highly recognized now, and so now it's time for the Bruins to produce. They've had a couple of lackluster seasons, and they're better than what they had with the Neuheisel years. But now it's time for the UCLA Bruins to really take it to the top. And like I say, anything short of a top 5 performance, or maybe even a playoff performance in the college football playoffs, it's going to be a lot to desire. The Bruin faithful are looking for a national championship at very minimum, at least to make it to the college football playoffs. Let's go ahead and switch over to let's say NFL football. NFL season is right around the corner. You have the preseasons here now. There's a lot of controversy, so many different storylines to actually follow. But a couple I want to mention right off the top is Detroit Lions played the Washington Redskins last night. One of the star quarterbacks of the Washington Redskins is RG3. Now RG3 is definitely injury prone. He's been like that throughout his pro career. He just went down with a couple more injuries last night, and he said he had a slight concussion last night, and they don't know, his status for the next game. He's been basically the walking wounded since he's been in the league. He had a nice rookie season, but since then it's been downhill. I think the Redskins are probably close to giving up on him, but if they do, they really don't have much to fall back on. I don't know if Gruden, head coach, is really fully behind him, and I don't know if he has really the locker room presence that you pretty much need for the players to really follow him and really support him wholeheartedly. And the Redskin Nation, Redskin faithful, is definitely dying for at least a playoff appearance, and it don't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. So the Redskins, in my opinion, are definitely in big trouble. You look at around the league, the Cowboys look like they might have a decent season. They actually practice in Oxnard, California. That's where their training camp is. They actually have joint practice with the LA Rams. And the Rams look so-so, but there's a lot of fanfare and a lot of interest building for the NFL now because the season's about to start in another few weeks, 3 weeks to be exact, 2 or 3 weeks to be exact. NFL season will be up and running. You have so many different issues in terms of the concussions. So many players are really becoming more and more aware of that. And not just concussions, but so many other injuries that are associated with playing such a brutal and dangerous sport. But having said that, it still seems like the interest for the NFL is at an all-time high. It looks like, that people can't wait for the season to start. From fantasy football to the Vegas to everywhere around the country, people can't wait. And that's all the other distractions, like the deflate gate with Tom Brady in that situation, with Ray Rice trying to find a team to pick him up, due to what happened, the Adrian Peterson situation. I can go on and on. But besides all the sideshow, you look at the fact that the NFL is still probably the most prosperous sport in the country at this time. Now, continuing on with the NFL, since we're in Los Angeles, you have 3 teams that are vying for the Los Angeles market. And 3 teams are very popular now. You're looking at the Oakland Raiders, you're looking at the San Diego Chargers, you're also looking at the St. Louis Rams. All 3 of those teams have rooted vested interest in the Los Angeles market. You have 2 venues that definitely vying for the services, and you're looking at one is the one that's up and running right now. Well, it's not up and running, but definitely farther along in development than the other one. You had an Inglewood project. You also have the Carson project. Now, you have the Carson project is definitely a lot slower in developing. The Inglewood project is much further along in terms of development. Now, there's going to be all types of side stories with those as well. They're trying to gauge which market will probably garner the most fan interest in LA. All 3 of them have vested interest in the LA market. All 3 of them have roots in LA. What do I mean? Let's start out with the Chargers. Well, the Chargers actually started in Los Angeles. Most people don't realize that, but the Chargers actually started in LA. They were an AFL team that played, I believe they played the Coliseum for 1 year. Then they moved down to San Diego, to Old Balboa Stadium. After that, and because the LA market is void right now, you have a lot of LA fans that clamor towards the Chargers. They've had some successful seasons in the recent past, and on top of that, a large contingency of the Orange County market since it's closer to the OC, is closer to the San Diego County, will definitely clamor more towards the Chargers than either the Raiders or the Rams. The Rams have deep-rooted interest here in Los Angeles because the Rams were here, came from Cleveland, and they were here to play the Coliseum for decades. And they have very passionate fans, very strong-rooted, passionate fans for a lot of years to the Rams, a lot of years. As a matter of fact, the Rams actually won an NFL championship here as well. A lot of people don't remember that. I know they left for Anaheim, but before that, you had huge interest of Los Angeles Rams fans, from the Roman Gable years to the Fearsome Four, Deacon Jones years, to the James Shack Harris years, to the, you go on and on. Eric Dickerson, of course, and even before that, I did mention Roman Gabriel, the old blue and white uniforms, and of course, then they showed the gold and blue uniforms. John Hadle. They had some very successful years here in Los Angeles, and then they decided to move to Anaheim, and then from Anaheim, that's when they moved to St. Louis. So they have deep-rooted, and they were probably here the longest out of the three teams. Then, of course, you have the Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders came here, in the early '80s. They actually won a Super Bowl here in Los Angeles. They have a huge contingency of fans, not just in Oakland, but definitely here in Los Angeles. And a lot of people think they might be the team to actually relocate. They should be one of the three teams to relocate. It is a possibility all three might do it, but chances are the number one team will be the St. Louis Rams, and then maybe the Oakland Raiders, and then I think the lowest on the totem pole will be the Chargers. However, a lot of people will argue that and say it would be the Chargers because of how close they are and the success they've had in recent years. And on top of that, the Rams, because the Rams are here the longest and they have a huge contingent of fans. They were practicing against the Dallas Cowboys in Oxnard for the training camp, and they drew about 7,000 fans down there. And the Ram fans just loved them, talking about the way they were talking about them back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and can't wait till they come back. So you have, so many different pockets of people saying this, that, and the other, and all this different dialogue, and the stadiums haven't been built yet, but it's a possibility that Los Angeles, instead of having 0 teams in the last umpteen years, might even get 3 in the near future. However, they cannot. The Raiders and the Rams, the Raiders and the Chargers cannot occupy the same venue in the same division. If they do that, one will have to leave. So that might be a deterrent for one of them to come down here. Also, San Diego might get their act together, and for some reason or another, the Chargers might end up staying in San Diego, getting a state-of-the-art facility there. That's an outside shot. It's an outside shot for St. Louis. It's also an outside shot for Oakland. But the Rams are probably number one because the owner of the team actually owns the land that they're developing in Hollywood Park. So I think he has a jump on all the rest of the organizations. Now, the Chargers, they really want to come down here. They really want to do it, but you never know how it's going to turn out. But we'll see how it goes. But, the jury's still out for that. But it's a lot of fan interest. They've been talking about it on sports talk shows and TV for the last couple of years. It's going to continue to happen until they finally build one of the stadiums, which will probably be the one at Hollywood Park. Let's jump over to, let's go with the, let's switch gears right quick. Let's go with the NBA. NBA season, Summer League is finally over. Now they have the U.S. Olympic team, and the U.S. Olympic team, they have 34 players, I believe, right now, but they're going to narrow that down to 12 will actually be the opening night roster for the U.S. Olympic team 2016. A lot of interest has been garnered about whether Kobe Bryant should actually be on the team. Kobe Bryant, he's a lightning rod in the very beginning. A lot of people think he's arguably one of the greatest players of all time. A lot of people say he's the greatest Laker. Some people say the first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't feel that way about him at all. I think he's one of the most overrated players, if not the most overrated player in NBA history. He has a dubious distinction of missing more shots than anyone in NBA history. I think he's one. The chemistry he has been deplorable for the entire organization. He's hurt the organization way more than he's helped the organization. Time and time again, he's been bailed out by so many role players. He's been in an excellent position to cover up for all of his mishaps. And the fact that he's supposed to be such a great player, for him to make so many mistakes time and time and time again and hurt the team over and over and over again, and to paralyze him with the salary cap, what's going on. But not only that, when he gets on the court, it's even worse. Players don't want to come down here. Players don't want to play for the Lakers. The Lakers are going to find it'll be very difficult to really field a legitimate team until he leaves. I can go on and on about Kobe Bryant, and I will challenge anyone, from Stephen A. Smith to Skip Bayless to Jim Rome to anyone out there. We can argue the merits of Kobe being Bryant. Anytime, anywhere. That's an open invitation to anyone. I don't care who it is. Please take me up on that. Please. Let's switch over to the LA Clippers. LA Clippers, it seems like this offseason has definitely made a lot of transactions. It seems like on paper it looks like the team has improved, but you never know how it's going to turn out until they actually play the games. You have Jamal Crawford's crying about the way he doesn't understand why the Clippers are bringing in so many players to basically play the same position, and on top of that, how he's going to be impacted by all these new incoming players. But having said that, he just talked to Doc Rivers not too long ago. Doc really didn't reassure him of anything. He just listened to his concerns and said, well, we're just trying to improve the team. On paper, the Clippers look like they should be in better shape. However, saying that, you have other teams out there in the NBA who have definitely upgraded their rosters. You never know how those players are going to gel and mesh. The Clippers are definitely very fortunate to have DeAndre Jordan decide to change his mind, and come back to the team as opposed to going to the Dallas Mavericks. That should help the team out. However, I don't care what anyone says. If you're only shooting 30-something% from the free throw line, eventually that's going to come back to haunt you. And he has to be in the game in the fourth quarter to really make a serious impact on the games in a crunch time. And he's one of the few players in the league that can do so much, but in crunch time do so little. Most of the time, it's probably best to have DeAndre Jordan out of the game, because when you send him to the free throw line and he's shooting air balls from the free throw line, that's just outright embarrassing. I mean, that's just outright deplorable. I mean, there's no way you can tell me, I don't care how much money the man's getting paid. I don't care what else he's doing. If you're shooting air balls from the free throw line with less than 2 minutes left, that's going to eventually hurt your team. Now, you might get away with it in the regular season, but come playoff time, eventually that's going to come back to haunt you. And he hasn't improved on that. It seems like it's getting even worse. Now you have Chris Paul, who's certainly not clutch in my opinion. The only one who's probably is Blake Griffin. And they put so much pressure on that young man last year that eventually he ended up cracking down the stretch. So we'll see how Doc Rivers has this new roster that he has. Now he's GM as well as head coach. We'll see what type of head coaching skills he has to put this mix of players together and see how far they go. But again, having said that about the Clippers are obviously the marquee team in Los Angeles right now. Having said all that, the Clippers still only made it to the second round of the playoffs. That's it. I mean, second round of the playoffs. They go up 3-1, and it looks like that was a shoe-in, and up in the fourth quarter, and end up I mean, I don't know what you call that debacle in the playoffs. And that's something that sticks with you for a long time. We'll see how the players rebound in the offseason and see how they do next year. But until they make it past the second round of the playoffs, the Clippers are still the same Clippers. They have to produce and have to win, at least make it to the Western Conference Finals, in my opinion, to have a successful season. And having said that about the Clippers, this is a little side note. I think they need to go ahead and change those uniforms. I know they just changed, but they need to change them again. Those uniforms are definitely not much of an upgrade, and they also need to change venues and probably need to change cities. They probably need to leave Los Angeles and be a big fish in a small pond, maybe go someplace like Seattle or someplace else as opposed to sharing the same arena, basically the same locker room with the LA Lakers. Until they put some banners up there, it'll still be a Laker town. Even though the Lakers had a horrible record last year and in a deplorable situation right now, it's still an LA town, it's still a Laker town until the Clippers actually make some significant progress and stick with it. And we can take a break on that note.
To everyone, get to look that rules. For the elite and superstars. Custom design. sunlady1@gmail.com or 213-359-5611.
Welcome back, sports fans. All right, let me start off this segment by addressing baseball. We're right in the thick of baseball season right now. You're looking at the two teams out here, definitely the Dodgers and the Angels. The Dodgers have a payroll I think they have the highest payroll in the game. And certainly besides the two ace pitchers that they have, the others, 3 on down, are definitely leave a lot to be desired. The bullpen's lousy. They spend so much money on clutch hitters, and most of them are not coming through. Puig is certainly one that they had high hopes for their future, and he's definitely a question mark. You look at Don Mattingly, leave a lot to be desired for his game management. He's good with managing egos and certainly keeping clubhouse chemistry in order, but in terms of actually game time management and actually managing on the field, he leaves a lot to be desired. Certainly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers make a change. They're holding on to first place right now with 2.5 games over the Giants, but as much money as they've spent, as many players as they've had over the last 3-4 years to actually buy a championship, they haven't even come close. Come playoff time, especially against the Cardinals or any other team out there that's legitimate, worth their weight in salt, when they play against the Dodgers in the playoffs, the Dodgers folded. They were doing it with Joe Torre as manager. Now they're still doing it with Don Mattingly as manager. They, like I say, the highest price, the highest payroll in the game. Dodgers fans are dying for a championship. We haven't had one since 1988, and this year we're not even going to come close. You have Kershaw, who was the Cy Young Award winner and MVP in the same season last year, which seemed like he was a lock. I can't miss for the Dodgers making it deep into the playoffs. Once he got to the Cardinals, it looked like he just froze up. You talking about tanking and choking, that's exactly what happened. He definitely choked, and I'm sure about his own admission. And so many Dodger fans are thoroughly disappointed by that. And you have such a high payroll, expecting great things from the Dodgers, and the Dodgers, as time and time again in the playoffs, come up short. Haven't won a championship, like I said, in 1988. And even that one in 1988 was, the Dodgers were heavy underdogs in those series, and were extremely fortunate in order to win that. So it's been a very long time for Dodger fans to really get excited about a championship and trying to get a parade for the Dodgers downtown LA. And again, they're probably going to change managers at the end of this season because I know they're not satisfied with Mattingly. And if the Dodgers don't make the playoffs this year, I think it's pretty much a slam dunk. You have too much invested for the Dodgers not to play better than what they're doing, and that's in a weak NL West. The NL West is very weak to begin with. Let's switch over to the AL West, which is another weak division. The AL West is another weak division. You're looking at the fact that the Angels are in a similar situation, but they don't have as high of a payroll because they got rid of Josh Hamilton, earlier in the year. Looking at the fact that Socha's been there for a long time, it's probably time for him to change. Time for a change. Not to say it's all his fault, but he has something to do with it. They have one of the best players in the game, young best players, probably arguably the best player in the game, Trout. But at the same token, you had when you brought with Pujols, he's been a major bust, no question about it. And they still have several years left on that ridiculous contract. He can't even stay healthy. And even when he's in there, he's slumping like crazy now. The Angels are probably not going to make the playoffs with a very weak AL West. And then on top of that, for the Houston Astros to make it over them, considering the payroll differential and the years of experience, that's just unacceptable. So there might be major changes there as well. So even though they're 2.5 right now behind the Astros, but either way, I mean, unless they, last year they were supposed to do a lot of damage and end up running into the Royals, and the Royals just crushed them. So, very disappointed in how all that went down last year as well. So it's supposed to be looking at having a freeway series last year, and it turned into both teams losing in a very embarrassing way, very embarrassing fashion. And then this year, looking for another freeway series. Although the Dodgers are 2.5 up, I think the Giants are probably going to overtake them. And then you have the Angels are 2.5 down, and I think the Astros are going to stay on top of them. So I definitely can't see it happening. It'd probably be managerial changes at both, for both teams. Very passionate fans, but the same token, the Angels have won a World Series title since the Dodgers have. The Angels won one about 14. It was about 14. 2000, 2001, right around there. Might have been 2001. They beat the Giants, but they have a very high payroll, a lot of expectations, and very disappointed again this season. So, and then I want to shift gears as well to horse racing. Horse racing, a lot of people talk about the horse racing industry. I still try to keep up with it, best I can. When you have a lot of the big events like the Breeders' Cup, Kentucky Derby, they're going to have another big one this weekend, the Pacific Classic down at Del Mar. That's going to be a really big. That'd be $1 million Pacific Classic down there in Del Mar, San Diego, for the thoroughbreds. So if you get a chance to check it out on TV, do so. They're gonna have a filly running against the big boys. So that'd be interesting to see. So, but yeah, definitely get a chance to check it out, and hopefully you enjoyed our reviews for today. And we'll be back with another time and with some more reviews. And thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.